You are listening to Attractive Relationships, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of relationships and communication. I'm Rico Armstrong, your host and advocate for attractive, happy relationships. In a world where relationships play a crucial role in our personal and professional lives, understanding how to communicate to connect with others is essential. Transform your communication skills to increase your social status, your social confidence, and help you gain the best relationships you can have. Welcome to Attractive Relationships. Today's episode is going to be all about getting to know the person behind the mic. That is your host, and that is your coach, Rico. And we're going to dive kind of just right into a little bit about myself and why I'm in this field. All right, so a couple of things to know. Maybe one of the oddest facts as of today is that I have lived in Texas my entire life, and in the Dallas area, we call it the Metroplex here in DFW. Most people, it seems like, have moved in, and I've been here my entire life. Having said that, I root for the Cowboys because it's my hometown, but I'm not a fanatic. Um, Matter of fact, I'm only a big fan of Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks when he was playing. Like, he's probably the only all-star athlete. My background has a lot to do with coaching in group fitness and one-on-one personal training. I'm an aspiring author. I am a husband. Um, so yeah, and I think a few things you're going to learn about my past, even about how I grew up, uh, will kind of weave in throughout the mix of things. It's really been a culmination of things throughout my entire life. Uh, Everything that I've learned about attractive communication and relationships has been like learned and layered since I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, my mom enrolled me into a public speaking course. Think kind of like Toastmasters, where you have a topic and you develop this topic, you present it, you also get to listen to others, and that's when I really started to learn how to communicate to an audience. But I always struggled to connect with people. I was always awkward. So when I became a fitness coach and now I have to communicate to a large group of people, I studied how to communicate more effectively as a coach. And by my surprise, what I learned is uh, the connections that were made is really where the magic happened. So it was important because my job was to get people to do hard things that they didn't want to do because it made them uncomfortable. And I had to make them like it and want to come back and do it again. You only do that by being able to connect with people through your voice. And so that's what really got me into this whole arena of relationships and communication. I think one of the things that happened early on in my coaching career that helps me to realize that this is something that is a skill that is valuable and can be learned and can really impact people's lives is when I started coaching in fitness. I did not have the experience that my peers around me had. So this is back in 2016. I started coaching group fitness for Orange Theory Fitness. And at the time, I was coaching in the only Orange Theory Fitness that had a physical Dallas address. So not only was it a very popular studio, but other people would fly in and go to the studio. It was a top 10 studio in the country. That's a very nerve-wracking place to be, to try to perform in this high-performing studio. And literally every other coach that was around me had a degree in like kinesiology or something. And I just came with a certificate that says I'm a personal trainer. They had years of experience, and so I felt kind of out of place. The only thing that I knew how to do was to talk to people. And one of the people that would consistently come to my class, her name is Kara. And she's the one that taught me how valuable this communication skill and relationship building really was. So Kara would come to my class, and every day she was one of the hardest workers you would ever see, except for one day. It was the only day I seen her not work to what she normally does. And I approached her and I asked her, I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I'm just having a bad day. I'm not feeling well." And at that point, you know, using some of the things I learned about communication, I just said it's okay to have a bad day some days, as long as you're doing your best today. And she nodded her head and she finished her workout. 1 year later, I got promoted to be manager. And she said, "Do you remember that conversation we had, Rico?" I said, "Yes." She said, "That's why you deserve this job, because on my worst day, you were able to see me, and I'm not the only one who feels that way. All of us members feel that way about you." And that was really her words, and how she said it really articulated how important connecting with people is and the impact that you can have on that. And since then, I really made a deep dive into how do I communicate better? How do I connect with people? Again, a lifelong pursuit. Again, back, I'm 9 years old. I'm in third grade, learning how to speak to people, uh, but really understanding the importance of it didn't really happen until after my first marriage ended. You know, I was married for 9 years, and as that marriage was ending, was when my new career in fitness was beginning. Um, and now when I look back, I can understand why that marriage ended, because I better understand how relationships work. And because I better understand how relationships work, it's easier for me to communicate through that. And so now that I'm remarried, it's, you know, again, I can say it's been a lifelong pursuit of everything learned and layered from the time I was 9 years old to going through my divorce, through coaching groups of people to do hard things and seeing how they all come together. Outside of fitness and communication, some of the things that I really like to do, I wish I had more time, is I love to cook. I'm not a great cook. I would probably say I'm like an intermediate cook. But I love to experiment, especially when I was more single, like in my single days. Like I would try to put together weird things just to see what would turn out. And sometimes it'd be a home run. So yeah, I like to cook. I like to hang out with my friends and family. So a lot of game nights, you know, pickleball is like the thing now. And I just recently played pickleball for the first time because I was like, "Ah, this ain't that fun. It can't be." And I was wrong. It's a lot of fun. I'm gonna do some more of it. Um, Sometimes I travel. Um, Matter of fact, I recommend everybody leave the country at least once. Um, but traveling is something I try to do. And I drink bourbon and wine and martinis, mainly bourbon. That's my go-to. But my wife is a wine woman, so she likes her Cabernets. Uh, and so just sit back and sip a drink and have good conversations is usually what I'm doing in my off time. Hey guys, real quick, I'd love to connect with you beyond these episodes, which is why I'm excited to tell you that Attractive Relationships recently started an exclusive newsletter just for you. You'll get behind the scenes stories and additional exclusive content to aid in building your personal attractive relationships. So if you'd like to be kept in the loop, simply click the link in the description below the episode. So the reason why I decided to start this podcast, this might sound almost bad to say, but I think of things as like heroes and villains. I don't know if you've ever heard of like a hero's complex or a villain's complex. You know, it's like they both experience the same type of trauma, but the only difference is how they what they do with it. You know, a villain says, "I'm in pain, so I want everybody to feel pain." And a hero says, "I feel pain and I want to make sure no one else feels this pain like I did." That's why I started this podcast. I want to spare people some of the pain that I went through. Um, and I think people are more anxious now than they've ever been before about building relationships. A lot of people just choosing to not. I went to a bar with a friend of mine one time for happy hour, and the bartender says that she doesn't like going outside of her house. And I'm like, you're a bartender and you're in the public every day, and you fear talking to strangers, and you would rather stay home for that reason. Like 2020s and in the social development of kids, even like it's really done a number. So it's making it more painful for people to communicate and connect. If this is a resource that can help give people skills to do the thing that they're currently afraid of, I think it only makes us better. And I would add to that that I decided to start this podcast because I have a very strong belief. I believe no one does anything great on their own. We need relationships to be successful. We need mentors. We need relationships with partners. We need relationships with people we can count on. And the only way that a relationship doesn't affect us is if we don't interact with anybody, which is impossible. So why not get good at it? It's something that impacts us every day. So the end goal, my vision for this podcast is to not only give people the tools that will help in your everyday life. I would also like to highlight people who are successful at doing these things. There's a lot of things on media today, a lot of like people with influence, I'll say, that they communicate in a way that is actually toxic. The most basic example that I think almost everybody can agree on is politics. It's the political people that are the leaders of the left will stand up and they'll say the people on the right are stupid. And the people on the right and the leaders that have the influence will stand up and say the people on the left are stupid. And so everybody's pointing this finger, and it's just almost like this battle of who's right. And then the rest of everybody who's watching these people of influence are saying, this must be the way I have to communicate. Or you get a celebrity who has a little bit of attitude. It's like, I'm not taking anything from anybody. I'm my own boss and I'm my own this and I'm my own that. Nobody can tell me what to do. And then people, even kids, are looking at that and say, well, if I want to be a confident person, this must be what I do. And then we grow up and wonder why our relationships are failing. I would like to be an influence that fights against that kind of toxic talk. And if this podcast can be a vehicle to help do that, like that's the vision that I see. So if the reason why this podcast is so important is, again, I just have a very deep belief that we don't do anything great by ourselves. And if I could just wake up every day, like what really gets my fire going is being able to bring out the best in other people. So that way, together, we are all getting what we want and need, and probably more so. Like that really gets my fire going. I always say that, I ask people this question: what would you do for free if you could? And this is what I would do for free if I could. And while I do need to support myself, putting this podcast out there is something that I can do for free to help that cause. One of the things I'm really most excited about in this podcast is just connecting with people who feel the same way, like-minded individuals, people who love helping other people. I think that when we feel isolated, sometimes we might feel like we're the only ones going through certain things, or maybe we feel a little strange, like, man, I'm the only one who thinks this way. And what we might find out is that more people think like us than we realize. We just don't know where they're at. So I'm really excited to kind of meet more people who love making meaningful connections with others to make a good change. Yeah. So what I would like to say, for those of you that have listened this long, which I really, really appreciate, if this content throughout this podcast resonates with you, and if it helps you in your life, I want to hear about it. Please reach out and let me know. If this content resonates with you, let me know and tell other people about it. Because I will be looking for where this works. I'll be looking for new ideas. I might even be looking for guests. And your story could be something that helps other people. So please reach out, let me know, and I'll look forward to seeing how this content is helpful to you. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.